Are you looking for inspiration, peace, and a deeper connection with your soul? If you're ready to investigate your higher truth, take a deeper look inside, and discover a better way to live, stay tuned for Higher Soul Living, where we ignite your divine intelligence for life. With me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. I experienced a profound spiritual awakening that was so life-changing. It took me into a 30-year career as a metaphysical life coach and breathwork expert. I've mentored thousands of people through their personal challenges, anxiety, self-doubt, and search for meaning. Higher Soul Living is about choosing to live the higher way. It's about taking conscious ownership and drawing spiritual intelligence into your everyday life. Join me on a search for higher truth to find hope, connection, and happiness. The Higher Soul Living Show starts now. Hello, everyone. This is Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. I hope you're all having a great day or night or morning, wherever you live. Now, today, because we keep running out of time with life after death, this is part 3. And part 3 is going to be about, can our beliefs affect the way we live and die? Can our personal beliefs affect how we live and die? Do they, in fact, affect the way we actually die? And do they affect the way that we actually live our lives, our daily lives, from moment to moment? So this is a bit juicy. So let's give these questions a bit of a squeeze. Couldn't help myself. I'm actually drinking some water with some lemon juice in it at the moment. So yeah, it is a juicy subject, and it's one that's really interesting, very interesting. So what are your own views on this subject? Have you all ever thought about this? Do my beliefs affect the way I live? You might have thought about that one. Have you ever thought about, do my beliefs affect the way I die, the way I pass out of this world? How I would like to do it ultimately as well, if there's such a choice, which we don't really know. So there are many, possible ways that we could look at this subject. But I think it's really food for thought. It's great. So I personally believe that the way we think about life and death directly affects both the way we live and the way we die. I probably shouldn't have told you that bit yet, but anyway, I do believe that. I've noticed over the years, because I've been really privileged with my work. I have worked with quite a lot of terminally ill clients, and it is such a blessing to work with them. So how I suppose how their personal and spiritual development over the time we work together changes their beliefs, and it has an effect on them in the life they have left, that they're living, the way they live it, and also on the way that they pass on. It has a monumental effect. And if we've got time, I'll talk a little bit more about that. But today I'm going to start off with Paul's story. So with this particular story, I'm going to give you a pretty in-depth picture of Paul's actual momentum through his life from when I started working with him. So there is an event at the end of this story that I think is really, really important. It's very relevant to today's topic. Pardon me, still got the cough thing. So, do our beliefs affect the way we live and die? So here's Paul's story. So one of my really beautiful, beautiful clients, Paul, and his wife, Marianne, they came to see me, and they were referred by a friend of theirs who lived in the UK. Now, Paul had been diagnosed with, unfortunately, with brain cancer. And they were looking for different ways of dealing with this really huge life challenge that they were facing. It's pretty big. And they had 2 children in their early teens at the time. And Paul and Marianne were actually, this is lovely, they were childhood sweethearts. So they met at school, and they had been together ever since school. Paul had a case of what I would call serious implosion or burnout. Burnout is just stress that goes on and on and on and on. And then eventually, instead of exploding outward, it explodes inward. So he had really serious, what I call implosion. And I just want to say something about this too. So this is really vital to understand in our lives. And we have very busy lives, very stressful lives now. I teach people about this in my Working with Energy course, How to Give a Shift. It really is important to understand what happens inside the cells of our body when we live in high stress. This burnout literally breaks our body down. So Paul was just 39 years of age, still a young man and facing such a really horrible disease. So my clinic at the time was on the first floor of a medical centre, and there were 2 flights of stairs leading up from the car park where people parked underneath the building. So Paul actually was so sick at the time, he wasn't able to walk up the stairs by himself. He had to be assisted. He couldn't, usually I had people sitting on a mattress and on the floor, and we discuss things and we do the session there, but he couldn't sit up. He had to lay down on the mattress and speak to me towards the ceiling. So he spoke up towards the ceiling because he couldn't directly look me in the eyes due to like dizziness and balance problems that he was having. So in the first 4 to 5 sessions, Paul and I connected on a really deep, intimate level, really raw, very real connection that we had. He was just so honest. It's very beautiful. That intimacy is so special that you build with people when you're working at such a deep level. Everybody's real at that point. So we discussed his fears and his concerns, his hopes and his dreams, as well as counseling and coaching. We did the deeper breathwork sessions because that really helps to clear and purify the body, and that's what he needed desperately. So Paul also explained to me that he'd had the same cancer, brain cancer, 2 years earlier. So he had a brain tumor successfully removed, followed by chemotherapy 2 years ago. And then he told me that he'd been given the all clear by the doctors at that time. So we discussed from there, we discussed his life, his job, his family, his career, and he started to make progress. And even his black toenail from when he was a teenager returned to normal color. And his wife was so excited. She told me she'd known Paul since she was 16 years of age, and his toenail had been black since she'd known him. So she was very excited that the toenail changed back to normal color over those sessions. After session 7, Paul was able to walk up the stairs by himself. He certainly did not bound up those stairs, but he could walk up unassisted. He took his time. He could also sit comfortably on the mattress, and he could look comfortably into my eyes and have a conversation. So he was really excited about this. He kept saying to me, "Look at me, look at me." He was doing really well, and he continued to do well. The next time I saw him, he said the doctors were pleased with his progress. But there's a big but here. He hadn't told them that he was having breathwork sessions. He didn't think they'd approve of something alternative, and you're not supposed to, do the alternative thing when you're under a doctor, apparently. So he hadn't told them. So they suggested he have a small round of chemotherapy at a low dose. Now, when he said that, I got this instant a huge red capital lettered no in front of my eyes. And I thought, oh my goodness, what do I do with that? Because I'm very mindful when I work with people, and particularly in this case, very mindful when Paul discussed treatments, not to say too much, not to sway him in any direction, because I'm not a medical doctor, and every decision must be made by the person. So Paul really needed to make his own choice without me saying anything about the big red no. So he decided to have the chemo, and it was to be over a short period of time at a low dosage. And he continued with his weekly breathwork sessions and coaching sessions. And he did well. The doctors were again really pleased with the result, but they still didn't know that he was attending breathwork sessions with me. They then recommended another round of chemo, a stronger dose, just to make sure, to really knock it out of the park. And again, I got the exact same big red capital lettered no behind my eyes in my mind. So Paul and I were discussing the treatment. This time I told him what I had seen during one of our discussions, and we discussed all of the options in great detail, all of the options. And the doctors were strongly suggesting he go ahead with the chemo, really strongly, and he was feeling quite pressured. So after a lot of deliberation and discussions with his wife, because I really thought they needed to talk about this in every which way, just by themselves and make their decision, he decided to have the next round of chemo. So what happened then was the stronger doses really knocked him around to the point where his immune system was very, very compromised, and they had to put him into hospital. And the sad thing is, he couldn't continue with his breathwork sessions once he was in hospital. And ironically, this is ironic, he caught Legionnaire's disease in the hospital. That's like a bacterial pneumonia. And he went downhill really quickly because his immune system just could not cope. His body was really struggling. They chose for, or he chose really, to be cared for at home in a beautiful environment. It was all set up for him. They got, the hospice nurses in, and his family was around. So his gorgeous wife stayed in touch with me. So I'd become really close with both of them. And Paul asked me to visit him at home, which I did over the time. So we talked a lot about life and how he'd lived his life, how we all live our lives, what was important, what he needed to clean up whilst he was still living. He was unable to do anything. He was in bed basically most of the time. And we also discussed death and what could possibly be beyond death and what he was looking at and what he might find. So we looked firstly at anything that was unresolved in all areas of his life, basically. And he was amazing. He cleaned them up. He cleaned up his relationships. He made sure that everything was resolved and complete. Anything that needed attention and fixing up, cleaning up, he resolved. He rang people, he asked them to visit him, he spoke to them, he did all sorts of things. He did so well cleaning up his life. And then he was in this beautiful state of happiness and peace. He was tranquil and open-hearted. He really did the work to get everything cleaned up, everything clear for him. No regrets, nothing hanging on that he should have done or could have done. He did the lot. During our time together, he asked me this question: why did the cancer come back after 2 years? This is a really, really important question. Paul had a high managerial position in a really large global company. I won't say the name of it. He worked long, long hours, and he was under a lot of pressure. And he said he'd been really stressed and he didn't enjoy his job. He didn't enjoy it. So after his first diagnosis of brain cancer and the subsequent recovery, he returned. When I asked him lots of questions, he returned to the same lifestyle. He went back to work with the same company. He worked with the same long hours. He did the same, or he felt the same stress and pressures on him. and he still didn't like the work. So the stress and anxiety built up and that pressure built up again in his body. This burnout and implosion, this time was catastrophic for Paul. So we discussed his choices. He didn't make the changes that he needed to make in his life. And when we discussed all of that, because we all do this to different degrees in our lives, so he didn't make those changes. So we discussed in depth and this particular thing about making choices, and he could see the choices he made and what he thought he should do compared to what he really wanted to do. So he took the should route, which we often do. We feel like, oh, there's no way out. I have to do this. I should do it. So after processing our discussion, he got some really, really clear insight. He said he could see that he stayed in the job, not for himself, but for other people. And this is what we do. He stayed there for his wife, his family, and the lifestyle that he could give them. And we can see why he would do that and understand that. And he said he also stayed for his colleagues and his company. That's a big one for people in the corporate world. So he didn't want to let anyone down, but he let himself down. He didn't honor what was right for him, and he could see this. He was speaking about this. So we spoke intimately about death and dying and what possibilities lay beyond the physical life. So Paul, at the age of 39, died peacefully at home with his loving wife and his children by his side. It's such a young age, but he lived well, particularly that last part of his life where he really became so resolved with himself and so incredibly peaceful and happy. He was a beautiful man and he had a very special and loving passing. It's one that I think would be wonderful for all of us. So he was resolved, happy, and peaceful when he died. And I just want to say this too. Healing isn't just about whether we live or die. Healing is about who we become in our lives. It's about bringing our lives into resolution, into harmony and completion. That's what a healing is about. So Paul had a lot of insight into himself and his life during our work together. He found himself. He freed himself. He may not have lived to his truth a lot of the time earlier as he realized, but that's part of our learning. We all do this, and hopefully we all get to this point of resolution as Paul did. So that's part of our journey. But as far as dying goes, Paul died with such grace and dignity. He died beautifully, and he died in love, peace, and freedom. Now, there's another part to this story that I was speaking about earlier. And this part was extremely moving for me. Just beyond, I don't have a word for it. Moving just seems too pale and pastel. It was just, yeah, incredibly moving for me. The morning that Paul died, he visited me. He came to me in his spirit body. I had to sit down because it was just so powerful, this visitation. He was surrounded, absolutely surrounded by luminous golden light. I could only see his face. It was pouring out of his face and it was all around his head. It was just phenomenal. His face was like glorious. It was radiant. He was smiling, this big smile. In fact, he was beaming with this golden sort of light buzzing, like it was buzzing, vibrating all around him. He didn't communicate with words. He communicated with energy and love. The message I received was that he was thanking me. That's how it felt, and letting me know, yes, you were right. It's beautiful here. I'm okay and I made it. That was the message that I was receiving from him. And then I felt this huge swelling in my chest. My chest started to just grow, expand, expand, massive expansion. And then it was filled with this incredible warmth, like this heat and a feeling of supreme love. And I knew it was coming from Paul. I knew he was giving me this love. He was pouring it into my heart and my chest cavity. The sensation of warmth in my heart was so beautiful, and the feeling of love was so huge. I'd never felt anything like it, to the point where I thought my heart was just going to burst because it felt so huge that I felt like I didn't have the capacity to expand any further. It was extraordinary. I don't have the words really to describe this. It was divine. It was glorious. The love in my heart was just so enormous. It felt holy. That's how I would describe it. Holy. So the experience was really very, very emotional, very intense, there was an intensity in that love that was pouring into my heart and expanding it. And this feeling stayed with me for about 3 hours. And I must say, when this was happening, I was sobbing. It was so beautiful. We just don't have the words. It was extraordinary. This was a most precious gift from Paul. So precious. And I learned so much from this amazing man. It was such a privilege to know him and to work with him. And I've shared this story today because it's so important. Paul's body filled with stress and pressure, and over many years caused extreme burnout, and his body imploded. But the main reason that I've shared Paul's story is because I absolutely know he would want his life experience to help others. That's why I'm sharing this with you. If you really don't want to do something in your life and it's causing you stress to a big degree, don't do it. Change something. Change it. And even if you think you can't, you can. Because I had a breakdown years ago myself through high stress and burnout. We have to change things. You have to give yourself permission to own it and say, I'm not doing this anymore. So honor who you are and follow what's right for you. And I do believe that our beliefs and our choices make a difference. They directly affect the way we live and what happens to us, and they directly affect the way we die. So Paul's beliefs around life and who he was as a human being and who he was as a spiritual being changed greatly over the time that we worked together. So this change led him into living differently in the last part of his life, and openly and authentically and deeply and much more present. So it also guided him into a surrendered and peaceful passing. So what do you believe? Can your beliefs affect the way you live and the way you die? Now, this may sound a bit strange. However, even for the loved ones left behind, if there has been open and intimate sharing and communication with the person who is ill and passing, if that communication with that loved one has been really open, intimate, and everything is expressed and resolved between the people, the passing of their loved one can be the most precious, loving, and beautiful experience for them as well. Even though, they're going to miss them, they sure will, and there'll be grief. But it can also be a very precious, loving, beautiful experience for the one who is sitting with the person and helping them to transition. It really can. It's very rich when we do that. That experience is so lovely for that person as well. So the way we think about this, the level of intimate communication we have, which can be difficult, but there's also such a treasure, a gift within that. And it's certainly possible to have someone have a beautiful passing and then you feel that you have done everything that you could possibly do to support that person and yourself. That's really important. Now, I had some other stories to tell you, but I know that we're nearly out of time. So what I might do is save this story that I was going to tell you for another time, and I will share just a little thing here. And please go onto my website and have a look. All the courses are on sale at the moment. Great sale. Working with Energy Super course. It's called How to Give a Shift. The Life Creation courses and the Higher Spiritual courses, they're all on sale. My website is soullifeconnection.com, soullifeconnection.com. So I'm just going to see, I just want to say, I'm not even going to be able to do that. I'm going to go to my closing message, I think, because we haven't got time. So negotiating life can be challenging at times, but if you look closely, there's always guidance with these experiences. And if you look closely, you will also get new insight into perhaps why things are happening, what our thoughts have been, what our beliefs have been, and we can make a change at that point. There's always a gift in that. There's beauty in all things. Even dying can be very beautiful. It can be very loving. It's a transition that we take from one form to another form. Because my belief is, from my experiences with working with people and spirit coming through, is that they're all still living, but they're living on a higher frequency. So most of the time, or a lot of the time, or all of the time, we can't see them. But the whole realm, there's a whole other life, if you like, that's there. A whole other life where people are living. And that can bring a sense of peace to people too, a great sense of peace. Okay, just going to say one thing about my courses. All of my courses have been created from what I was shown from a higher power on a cosmic screen many years ago. And I know that sounds weird, but it was holographic. So I saw it in my body, I felt it in my body, and I was shown on this massive screen at this really expanded level. So the information and the teachings are what I use to heal and raise my life and continue to do. And they've helped thousands of people. And this is what I worked with Paul as well. So that's the end of today's session. I really hope you enjoyed the session and get it's food for thought. You know, I hope you got something out of it that can really help you. So I wish you many blessings and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Higher Soul Living, where you'll ignite your divine intelligence for life with me, Reverend Christine Hart-Savage. Join me every second and fourth Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more information and stories that inspire hope, possibilities, and a greater understanding of who you are at a higher soul level. Together we deepen the connection between the spiritual and the physical aspects of your being and align to your soul's innate intelligence. Metaphysics and the higher soul's journey are my greatest joy. I invite you to join our Facebook community, Soul Life Connection Group, and to visit my website, soullifeconnection.com, for more information about me, my programs, my coaching, and to tap into your higher soul's intelligence. I hope to see you next time.